Hey, buddies. That's Barnaby. He's going to be helping me out with my videos tonight. Anyway, I have three videos to show you about what it is I'd like you to work on today and kind of what we'll be working on over the next couple weeks or so. So remember, this is the final project that we were chatting about the other week, and I've started mentioning it more because now that we're done with our big dissections and now that we are um, finishing up Born a Crime. Now we're ready to put all of our stuff together. So, of course, these are our big goals here that you're able to kind of talk about your own intersectional identity. You're able to connect to the materials and you're able to connect to the text. The big, the most important part of this reflection is that you have some kind of thesis, and that's actually what your third activity today is about is figuring out what that thesis is going to be and being able to analyze and connect those things all together. Okay, so next week I'm going to have you start finding a slide deck, title slide. That's no big deal. You've started with your visual already. But then the thing that you're going to be working on later today is coming up with some kind of thesis statement, putting all that together. So what am I talking about? What is this thing going to look like? So I went through and I made this example for you, and it's just kind of putting all of that together. You now have access to this example as well, so you can always check it out. Here's my title. Here's my table of contents. Nothing too earth shattering. Here's my visual. And I also put in a digital version. I just made something really quick on Canva. Remember, the visual is about you and your identities and what's important to you. You don't have to model yours exactly um off of mine, right? Like if you don't think about your orientation a ton, you don't have to have that on there. If you don't think about your hometown a ton, you don't have to have that on there. So it's about you. Okay. Okay, so here are some example thesis statements of where you're going to go. You're not doing this today because we're going to practice with each identity individually first. But this is what I mean by coming up with some kind of central thesis statement, some kind of central argument. If you've completely forgotten thesis statements, guess what? My next video, I'm going over essay structure, thesis statements, everything like that. And you're going to take notes on that. You're going to be an expert by the time I'm done. But here are some examples. So the first one here says, I view my whiteness and my manhood as intertwined. Just like when Trevor experiences privilege for being colored, and how whiteness carries an invisible backpack of privilege. So you can see I'm doing a couple things here. I'm first highlighting two identities. And that's something we want you to be able to do is to think about your identities. And they don't have to be race, class, gender. They can be any of the ones that we've kind of been briefly mentioning. Of course, we've been talking about those more in detail, but they can be ability, um, they can be orientation, they can be language. It's totally about you. Okay, so I've identified in this thesis statement my whiteness and my manhood. I'm connecting it to Born a Crime when he experiences privilege for being colored, and I'm connecting it to some of the materials that we provided for you. In this case, I'm talking about the invisible backpack of privilege. That was a whole article, maybe a video I posted for you. I can't remember. Let me show you another one. Here's this one at the bottom here. So being queer and middle class has allowed me to see society from the middle. Again, those are the two identities. that I'm going to be using for this thesis statement, like how when Trevor was in jail and how queer people live within heteronormativity. So I'm using both my queerness and my middle classness to talk about kind of viewing kind of both sides of society. Trevor was able to do that just in the chapter we read together today, Monday, how he's in jail for the first time and he's looking around and he's finally like looking at these people as like actual people. And I'm equating that sense of being in the middle to how when a lot of queer people have to deal with heteronormativity, just everything around them being just everything around us being straight, quite frankly. So again, I'm the claim, my opinion, my argument is about me being able to just kind of be in the middle of society and look around and see it. And I'm connecting it to the text and to the resources. But the thesis statement I'm going to use for my little example slide deck here is this one that's in the middle. So, in the same ways, Trevor was able to be a social chameleon and men struggle with mental health issues. My identities as a gay man can be both positive and negative. So now I'm getting fancy. Now I'm getting tricky on you because now the claim, the thing, the opinion, the argument, now that comes after. And basically I'm saying that my identities as a gay man, gay and man, those can be positives and negatives. Okay, how am I proving that? By talking about the positives and negatives of Trevor being a social chameleon and talking about the positives and negatives of men and mental health and kind of stuff like that. Okay, so let's see what that kind of looks like. So under the assumption I'm using this middle thesis statement here, here's my connection to intersectionality. And this is just a visual, so it's like this, like my little title slide. And all I'm doing is I'm just trying to kind of put some thoughts together. Remember, this is not a writing assignment. This is a reflection assignment. And so here I'm reflecting on this particular anchor that my being a gay man has positive and negative effects on my mental health. Okay, so some positives is that I feel really lucky. I'm really in touch with my feelings. I think I got myself out of a lot of that kind of weird toxic masculinity, like, ooh, I don't want to feel, I don't know, XYZ, like whatever. And again, because of my identities, I feel like I have a good support network. Like I know a lot of other queer men, queer women, and queer people, and I have a good support network to work through any issues I might have to work through. Some negatives of my being a queer man is that men still have a lot of societal pressures to act or behave a certain way. Queer men have more pressures to act and behave a certain kind of way, and then pressures to not perform or act a certain kind of way. It's kind of from both sides. And then another negative is that queer men statistically have more mental health issues than other men of other sexualities. Okay, so again, my thesis statement is there's positives and negatives to being a gay man, is basically what it is. Here's my connection to the intersectionality stuff. And then here's my connection to Born a Crime. So to support your anchor, the anchor that deals with Born a Crime, I keep yawning. I'm so sorry. It's been such a long day. Ugh. I'm going to ask you to find two quotations that kind of fit, what it is that you're saying. They don't have to use the exact word from your thesis statement. Mine does happen to use the word chameleon here. So you can see I have this quote from page 56 and this quote from page 140. And so, in relation to what Trevor is talking about in these quotes, some positives of being a chameleon is I feel like I know a lot of people. I have a good empathy for others' struggles, even if I'm not in that particular group. And then another positive for me is I don't feel tied to any one group. I love being able to float around and joke around and chit chat and kind of do everything like that. Some negatives, again, to being a social chameleon as a gay man is I've often felt really isolated. Like I've often felt super alone, not invited to birthday parties. I mean, kind of that whole thing that a lot of us have to deal with. It has been difficult in the past to meet or get to know other queer people. And then on the other side, it's kind of exhausting always going from one group to the next. Um, Not just having a core group of people that I can feel super friendly with, but always having to work through different groups, something along those lines. Now, what I just kind of demonstrated for you is what you're going to do here is you're going to put all of that reflection together into kind of like a video, kind of walk me through it. You'll notice how I talked more in depth than just these bullet points here. Like I went through, I talked, maybe I gave an anecdote. You'll do more of that, of course. And that's what's going to go for this 5-minute video, which we'll talk about later. Okay. So that's pretty much that for what this final project is going to look like and what I'm expecting of you and where we're going to be going, which is why the next two videos are really important because I'm going to be reviewing what these statements are. And then we're going to get into some practice based around our identity work that you guys have been doing such a great job at for the last month. Alrighty. Alrighty.